When I think about where I was in life a few years ago, the emotion is so raw, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. It's insane to think about. 3 years ago, I felt like a complete failure. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was leaving college, I was graduating at the time, I felt like I had a bad GPA. I had a major that I didn't think anybody wanted. And I saw my friends getting all of these six-figure jobs, and I just didn't have anything like that lined up. Your life can change so quickly, and it can happen just completely in your control. See, I'm not a person who has any sort of special skills. I'm not super athletic. I'm not super tall. I'm not super smart. I'm not an amazing coder or anything like that. I'm just a person who had a lot of drive and wanted to make something out of myself. I always knew I could, but all I knew is that I needed to put myself in a position to do that. It wasn't something that just came to me automatically. But now I'm one of the youngest senior managers at Amazon, making over $250,000 a year. So how did I do it? How did I go from somebody with complete self-doubt, with a complete lack of motivation and direction, to being one of the youngest people in the big tech industry? See, the thing is, again, you don't have to have any sort of special skills. It's not about being somebody that is just naturally gifted, but for you, it's really just about being the best version of yourself and setting yourself up with a few key ideas that'll help you along the way. Here's a couple ideas that really helped me, and I know will help you too. Now, the first idea is to follow your own next chess move and not somebody else's. This is really important. Again, you can't be sold a vision based off of what you see on social media, based off of what you see in movies. Your right next step has to really be something for you. How do you start with that? The point is to have an end goal in mind. If you think about what you really want to be, you probably have some degree of a picture. Maybe you want to work in tech like myself. Maybe you want to be an artist. Maybe you want to be an athlete. But the point is to have an individual goal. Once you have that goal, you can kind of set the steps that are along the way. Again, nowadays, people will tell you that the only way for you to change your environment and to switch up your life is to move from one place to the next. This is often seen as a process of job hopping. A lot of work social media accounts will tell you that the only way you can get a big raise is to change companies and that your current environment will never value you as much as the next guy. While sometimes this actually is the case, the fact of the matter is that you want to make the move when it's right for you. By researching your steps, asking people in front of you, you can make sure that you have the right next step. Achieving your goals doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that just automatically comes to you. You have to put a lot of long days and long nights in. But the idea is that if you have a good next step and a good roadmap for you, it'll be worth it along the way. The next big idea that really helped me is to roadmap my career for the plays that paid. So once I actually got to my Amazon project manager role, my job was to set up new warehouses around the country. And this was a great opportunity at the time, but it wasn't what I wanted to go to. My eventual goal was to try and get to the technical world, so I needed to get to a product management opportunity. At the time, I could have switched jobs to try and get there, but that probably wouldn't have been the right move. The reality was that the issue wasn't the actual opportunity, it was me. I was in the right place to grow, but I didn't have the skills to go where I needed. I spent a few months building up my technical skills, just networking with other people and making the most out of my current environment. And that's the idea of making the best of the play that pays. After a few months of that, working in my current environment, networking with people, I was able to create an opportunity on my own team as a sort of stretched technical product manager. Again, all I did here, this didn't come with a different title at the time. It didn't come with a pay raise. All I was doing is creating software for my old project managers. The reality is though, even though it didn't come with any of those special perks, it was my first opportunity to work with software, and that made this the play that paid. I knew I was setting myself up for better long-term success if I stayed in this role, and eventually it ended up being the thing that worked out. Now the thing is though, even if you have that next idea, sometimes it will be difficult to actually get to your next step. This is where this next idea comes in. It can be the difference between spending 10 years chasing a goal and 2. So one of the big ideas that's really helped me along the way is to make sure that I invest in intentional learning. This third principle is known as not being afraid of big ticket learning programs. If you've ever played a Pokemon game when you were a kid, you'll remember the times when you're just an early trainer, running around in patches of grass, trying to level up your Pokemon, knowing that the only way for you to advance was to make sure you reached a certain skill before you could even move to the next stage. Life is kind of like that. Sometimes you have to spend time investing in your skills and making sure your growth is on the right path before you can get to the places you want to go. When I was an Amazon project manager trying to get my first product management role, I knew that it was important for me to really improve my tech skills and learn different coding concepts. And I knew that the only way for me to do that was to spend time outside of my workday. It had to be done on evenings and weekends. So I looked into a bunch of resources. I saw free options like Free Code Camp, the Odin Project, and I knew that I could learn from this without spending any money. But at the rate that I was going at, it probably would have taken me about 2 to 3 years of evenings and weekends to make any sort of meaningful progress. Instead, I chose a different route. I spent about $10,000 on a 6-month coding bootcamp, and I ended up getting a $100,000 promotion before the program even ended. So why did I go this route? Spending on intentional learning is kind of like using the experience boosters in Pokemon. Sometimes it costs you a little bit more money up front, but it drastically saves on your most important resource, which is time. And that's the thing about intentional learning. If you know you're going to put yourself into a season of being heads down, hitting the books, and putting yourself into a better state, it usually is worth it for you to invest in something like that. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a foolproof plan. It doesn't work 100% of the time. There's a lot of courses out there nowadays, and degrees even too, that are completely meaningless, that just don't add any value. And there's a ton of certificates that you can find for just a few dollars or even $100 that will have a huge return on investment. I've taken both. Again, I did a $10,000 bootcamp. I've also done certifications that were just a couple bucks. My direct path was that when I was a project manager, I did the PMI Agile certification, I did AWS certifications to the cloud practitioner, and then I went to that bootcamp. So that's my whole roadmap. But again, I spent $10, I spent $100, and I spent $10,000, and they were all worth it. Investing in intentional learning honestly doesn't always have to be expensive. It just has to unlock the next move for you. One of the really big pieces of advice is to create mechanisms for working at the next level. So this principle is a little bit different. Once you're at a big tech company, you'll find out that you don't actually just get promoted for doing your job well. You get promoted when you're doing work that's at the level that you're trying to get promoted to. It seems a little bit contradictory, but that's kind of how big tech companies actually evaluate you. They feel that the best indicator of future success is past success. In order for you to build that portfolio of getting a promotion, you actually have to have that past success. So a couple things that helped me is that, for example, when I was an Amazon project manager, I knew that I had to find some sort of projects that I could manage that would create a portfolio of work for me to be able to line up that next promotion. One of the big things that really helped me is just reaching out to a couple of different departments in my building. I asked them for advice. I wanted to see what sort of problems do they really have so that I could see what opportunities that I could solve again and turn into those sort of projects. So by reaching out to these departments, I found out about 5 different process improvement opportunities that I was able to create for my building, and it was a no-brainer for me to roll these out to the team. I cost the building almost nothing, but I was able to have these projects that benefited either entire departments or the entire site. So when it comes to this idea of creating mechanisms for work at the next level, in order to be able to succeed, you have to actually create a routine that even enables your brain to think in this way. As you start your tasks, you'll find that it's really easy to get kind of bottlenecked. You'll think that you just have to do the task in front of you, but in order to set yourself up for success, you have to do the things that not only help now, but help in the future too. One of my favorite workers has this idea that you don't rise to your ambitions, you fall to your standard. And so setting yourself up for that success and doing the things that get you there has to be your standard. Whether that's going outside of your workday to do 2 networking calls per month or an extra 10 hours per week to improve your coding skills, you'll find that when you don't compromise on your success, your progress compounds. These are some tips that really helped me along the way go from where I was a couple years ago to reaching my current senior product management role. You'll see that the more you apply these, the more you'll succeed over time.